After working with Shilajit for more than 20 years, over 2 decades, there are 3 common complaints that I've come across that either prevent people from taking Shilajit on a regular basis or prevent them from taking it at all. So the number one biggest complaint with Shilajit is difficulty removing it from the jar. Or even being able to remove a dose at all. So when it's freshly packed, the Shilajit, it's really sticky and gooey. It's like a tar, and it gets all over everything. It's super, super messy. And then when it's been around for a while, it hardens up like a rock, and it like sort of welds itself to the side of the jar. And then you literally have to use like a butter knife and sometimes even a pick to break off a piece, and it becomes a hassle. So difficulty removing from a jar is the number one complaint, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like, all right? So hold on for a second. This sort of has to deal with the number two biggest complaint. All right. So, all right. So this definitely has to do with the number two biggest complaint. All right. So I have some pliers here. Let me pull this off. So this is a secondary little lid that we have here, and it sort of helps out with the number two complaint, but you can see like it just gets everywhere, like it's super sticky, and to the point where we actually have utensils created. There's a few different kinds, but this is the kind that we prefer over here, and it's like a hardened stainless steel, so it doesn't bend and stuff like that, because the Jeep's super resilient. But this is what I mean. It's a super like a black tar kind of a thing, and when you stick it in there, like it comes out, and look how it's stringy, and you can't get that off of there. So when you pull it out, it'll get on the rim of the jar, right? And that's not a good thing. So it gets all over the place, and like we said, after time, it'll harden up because there's a small amount of moisture in there that makes it sticky and gooey. And then when that moisture evaporates, then it becomes hard like a rock. And like I said, you literally have to get a pick or a butter knife or something to try to break off a piece. So either way, it's just a pain in the butt to remove a dose from the jar of the traditional Shilajit. Okay. So the number two biggest complaint is sort of what you witnessed right now, and that's difficulty opening the jar, like extreme difficulty, and sometimes not being able to open it at all. Because what happens is, like I showed you how sticky and gooey and stringy it is, so it's impossible to not get it on the rim of the jar when you pull it out. And if you don't clean off every single speck of Shilajit off that rim of the jar, every single time that you pull a dose out, then when you put the lid back on, the Shilajit will dry, and it will literally weld the lid to the jar, right? So it makes it almost impossible to remove, if at all. And sometimes people will end up breaking the lid, they'll break the jar. And a lot of people, when they are getting towards the bottom, they just like, man, I just can't open this anymore. I use hot water, I use everything to try to break it loose, and can't do it. And they just end up throwing like a third or a fourth of it away. So it's super, super frustrating. And that's why people, even though they love it, they'll stop taking it, right? It's a big, big, big deal. So let's go into the number three biggest complaint, and that's being able to get an exact measured dose. So if it's so difficult to pull out, and you're pulling out this stringy stuff, and you're trying to, you're just grateful to pull a dose out, and you don't really care, how much is in there. It's impossible to pull out the same dose every single time, and traditionally what they say is you pull out a BB size to a pea size, little chunk, and that's supposed to represent between 100 milligrams and 250 milligrams. But how are you going to put, like, it's impossible to pull out the pea size or the BB size and get that whatever you want, any of the times, let alone every time. And it's very, very frustrating for people, especially in the United States, because we want to know exactly how much we're taking, so we can know if we need more or less, and have a good experience, for the long haul with it, and not be going through these ups and downs because we're taking varied doses and things like that. So all that being said, all that difficulty, let me show you how easy Shilajit Elixirs is. It's just so off the charts amazing, and it's I'm super excited just to show you guys. So all you do is pour a little bit of water into a glass, right? And then you could shake it up a little bit, and then just pull off. You could screw it in there. Now, with this particular bottle, full dropper is 100 milligrams. So I think I want to take 200 milligrams today. And boom. So you see how easy that is just to deliver a dose. No sticky mess or anything like that. Super, super awesome. Now I can, stir it up and stuff like that. Usually with the regular traditional Shilajit, you have to has to melt into the liquid. You have to use a hot liquid like coffee or tea or hot water and wait for it to melt in, and it takes quite a while. And you have to stir it up, and it usually gets stuck to whatever you're stirring it to. It's just a hassle. And you can stir this, but you don't even need to. It's super awesome. Like I'll show you right now just to prove it. And look, like zero residue, like it's all gone. I didn't even stir that up, and I put 2 squirts in there. How awesome is that? You don't need to stir it. You just squirt and go. It takes less than a minute, and that's why I call Shilajit Elixirs the busy person's secret weapon.